Hello, Izzy Nally here, and talking about how to accomplish your goals, your dreams. And this is the full spectrum from weight loss, which I don't always love that term, but from, let's say, getting healthy to career goals. Because essentially you have a dream or a goal, and let's visualize this as a seed. Many of us have lots of seeds. Some of us have a few. And I will say I see a lot of people and hear a lot of people that take their seeds and they just put them in a drawer. And guess what? That seed is going to stay there. It's not going to go bad. Now it could get moldy. It could get, those things. But most of the time, if you put the seeds in the right spot, you put them in the drawer and they're going to stay there. And they're not going to grow. They're going to be continuing to be that thing that's just sitting in the drawer. But in order to take that seed and plant it for it to grow, to have a chance, right? And often, if you know anything about gardening, sometimes we have good seeds and we have bad seeds, or we have seeds that aren't at their best. But sometimes we'll plant a couple just because we know that one or two aren't going to make it. And I say that not to scare you off or go, oh, why should I even bother? But to say, like, it's okay to have lots of dreams and goals and not to be fearful of taking chances because they won't come true. Okay. So that point aside, because I can go into the weeds on some of those things, but we need soil to plant our seeds, right? So your dreams, your goals being that seed. So what is the soil? What is the soil that you're planting your seed in? And a lot of times that really truly is, and I see this time and time again, is stress management. Now, I remember the days when I first became a coach, and that was what I wanted to go out and preach because I was seeing all the beautiful benefits of stress management. And I was like, drink your water and manage your stress. And we all know that. We know it, right? But I see it time and time again that people are failing getting started with their goals and dreams. And I am also this person. I've done it before. And that's why I can speak from truth, from my own truth, is that if you go to, and I love using weight loss and food as a great metaphor as well, because we all have to eat. But if you're hungry and you are stressed, you're most likely going to make poorer choices, right? If you're stressed and you're like, I don't have time to plan my menu, let alone sit and think about my menu for the week or go grocery shopping, like something so little will feel overwhelming if you're not managing your stress. And again, I've ran so many weight loss programs in the past, and we're starting those back up. And time again, what ends up happening is the habits for people to do the things that they've paid someone to help them do, and this is why I became a hypnotherapist, is because they're sitting there coming up with excuses. And not saying coming up with, meaning they're not legitimate, because a lot of times they are very legitimate. But it all comes down to the ability to manage the stress. Because if you're like, well, yeah, I mean, I signed up for this program and I want to exercise and I want to eat healthy, but I just can't because my stress, I've got all these things. And what's happening is we're allowing life to happen to us instead of us making life happen for us. And that's where we have to get really real. And this is why in our next boot camp, and I'm saying this because these are things that you need to think about, even if you're doing this on your own, is we're going to have every Friday morning where we are going to sit down in a virtual session and we're going to look at what excuses are coming up. That doesn't mean that it's not going to work for you. It doesn't mean that you can't do it, that you can't continue into your goals. Again, whether this is weight loss, whether this is career, whether this is business, you have to stop and pause and look at what excuses are continuing to come up. Not in a judgment, not in a shaming way, but to say, like, I have to address them in order to move forward. So for me right now, I'm always real and raw, right? Like, I am a single mom and I have kids, getting them to school in the morning and picking them up, and I'm juggling multiple businesses, and I have to get really raw with myself and go, I'm juggling too much. What am I going to do about that? And if I just sit in that space of like, what am I going to do about it? And I don't do anything about it, then I don't have a foundation for my seed to be planted into, for my goals, for my dreams. Another thing that we have to look at with goals and dreams and planting those seeds is it the right season? Is it the right season to be planting those seeds? And this is something that I've had to really get real with myself on, and going like, I want this goal, I want this dream to come true, but right now I'm focused on these things, and I am then going to address that goal and that dream in this next season, in this next phase. And so being real and honest with yourself, again, not to shame, not to blame, not to guilt yourself into those seeds that are sitting in the drawer, but to say, like, I'm saving those for this next season. That maybe that's a goal for the fall, or maybe that's a goal for the spring, right? And as we move into the fall right now, we have to say, like, what are my goals for the fall? This is why quarterly goals, and I love doing quarterly goals because we can align them with the seasons, quite literally. And if you haven't yet, my book, Intentional Manifesting, that's the whole premise behind that book, is that our brain, our soul, our energy reacts to the seasons. We tend to be more spiritual and seeking balance in the fall time than we are necessarily in the summer. Okay, so looking at where your mind is and what you want to focus on for the season and what's right for this season. Now, continuing to come back to this foundation, the soil, like, there's not just soil, right? But the truth is you can give a plant, and maybe you've killed some before. I know I have. But you might be giving the plant water and giving the plant sun, and you don't know why it's not growing. But if its soil doesn't have any nutrients in it, guess what? The water and the sun isn't going to make much of a difference. That soil needs to have nutrients for the plant to grow. And some of my thinking too is I've got 2 songs that I've been listening to, and ironically we did a networking, and I heard someone else say this too, and it was, I hope your flowers bloom, right? Like, I hope all the seeds that you're planting grow these beautiful flowers. But to play on those words even more, like, most of us, especially if you're building a business, it's even more than that, because we're not just growing flowers. We're growing fruit trees and vegetables and plants that we want to produce fruit. And in order for that fruit to have nutrients of its own, the soil needs to have even more nutrients in it. And so this is why I cannot stress enough, like, your mindset, your stress management, your outlook on life, your perception, your self-care is so incredibly important. And if you're stuck and you're continuing to be stuck, I really highly recommend getting support. And I don't necessarily mean like, oh, sign up for my boot camp program. Yes, of course, I want you to. But that can be things like getting involved in a community, building a buddy system of your own. And yes, those can be really challenging. That's why most people will end up paying to be in a program, because a lot of times people get into a container, and if there's not rules or something that's holding that container together and someone being the lead, it typically falls apart. Typically, not always, but typically. So when you're paying someone to hold the container, they'll maintain that structure. So a little side note of my experience in those worlds as well. So really truly looking at what's been going on with your goals and taking a moment to self-reflect. Are you sitting them in the drawer? Are you planting them in the wrong seasons? Are you having a fertile soil? are you watering and providing sun? And when it comes to this analogy, I really like to use the concept of, and what feels good for me, and it could be either way for you, but the sun is really the sitting down and being able to visualize yourself, allowing yourself to accomplish the goals, the dreams, to stay in alignment, to really reflect. And the water is more of the action for me, because I think of more of like, I've got to get the watering can, I need to put water in it, I need to walk over, I need to water the plants. So for me, that's very action oriented, versus the sun is just allowing yourself to receive the sun, allowing yourself to, in a sense, take action, because the sun's there, the possibilities are there, right? But are you allowing yourself, or is your time management and your schedule off, and you're not even just allowing the things to happen? So really, truly think about this, reflect about it. Something that I used to host, and I would love to bring these back if there's enough people that want to do them, but really taking time each month to look at all the things that went well, but also look at the things that didn't go well. So this is from project management, specifically agile project management, where we look at what we want to stop doing, what we want to start doing, and what we want to continue doing. And looking that also applied to, what are your goals for the next month? Are you taking some time to project plan for yourself? Have you set those quarterly goals? Have you then broken those back, like worked backwards and said, okay, so what do I need to do first? What is this month? So that at the end of the 3 months, what do I want to be proud of? What do I want to look at and celebrate then? And I really highly recommend doing a micro version of that for every single week, and start where is comfortable for you. If doing 3 months and a quarter like feels overwhelming, then don't start there. Because again, it comes back to, if you are stressed, if something feels too heavy, you will avoid it most likely. You won't do it. Or if you do it, you'll do it with a different energy than if it was something that was this simple. And that's where, again, with coaching, and hopefully, like, if you have a coach or you're thinking about a coach, like, finding someone who really can help you break these things down and check in with how things feel, and is really holding space for you to process and have your own insights. Because I will tell you, again, why I became a hypnotherapist is I was in this sports medicine world. And people are wanting me to tell them what to do, and I tell them what to do, and guess what? 98% of the people don't do it, because they need someone to help them rationalize that they want to do it. They need to have that choice. It's a human condition that we do things when we feel like we had a choice. When we feel like that we are buying in, is typically the term that I use, when we're agreeing to it. But if we're just told to do something and then go do it full force, it typically doesn't happen. So making sure that you're in alignment, that you are having that insight, and that you're pursuing based on a strong foundation. All right, I'll talk to you later. Go journal.